All right, what is up? What is up? If you're new to this playlist, I've been doing a series of videos where I take some of the most consistent questions that I've been finding on the internet from men age 18 to 27, and I've been doing my best to answer them. So, this question I got is pretty interesting. How do I handle breakups and heartbreak? I think that one, you're going to have to deal with it, and I'll get into what I mean by that in just a second. You're gonna have to deal with it. You're gonna have to understand that heartbreak and breakups are a necessary part of you trying to date and have relationships with anybody. I think you're gonna have a type of heartbreak and a type of breakup when it's a romantic relationship, and I think you're gonna have a type of heartbreak and a type of breakup even in a friendship. The thing you need to do, and the thing that I would recommend when it comes to dealing with it, is you need to know that it's going to happen, or at least there's a possibility of it happening. And you need to take the negative energy from that heartbreak or from that breakup and channel it into something positive. So I'll give you a quick story. Back in college, I think this was year 2012 or 2013, I think. I had just started getting into like pickup. If you're not familiar with like pickup, it's basically like tactics for losers like I was at the time to, I say losers like kind of jokingly, but a lot of the guys that were in pickup were considered losers in general, which is why they got into pickup. It's for pretty much people who aren't good with women to get better with women, and it involves a lot of stuff, a lot of psychology. It's basically a lot of psychology that pickup artists use to seduce and attract women. So I did that for a bit because I was just awful with girls, like horrible with girls. Couldn't even talk to girls. Girls did not acknowledge me. They didn't like me. And I remember I met this one girl. I was doing like a lot of Tinder dates because Tinder was like brand new at the time, and it was easier than Cold Approach. It was just easier to like go on Tinder and just swipe a bunch of girls and match with a few and then go out on dates with them than it was to kind of go out on campus and just talk to a bunch of random girls cold and you feel like you're getting judged, and much easier. So did a lot of Tinder at the time. Did Cold Approach too, but did a lot of Tinder at the time. And I remember matching with this one girl. I don't remember her name, but she was completely my type at the time. Body type that I liked, hairstyle that I liked, kind of the same attitude towards things that I liked. Liked horror movies and stuff like that. And long story short, we were kind of like, we didn't like officially date like exclusively, but we were dating, like going on dates and stuff and hanging out for maybe like a month or so, a few weeks. And in a very, I'm not going to tell the exact story here because it's actually, maybe I will. So at one point we were trying to like, this is a weird story to tell, but we were trying to like hook up, and I wasn't really ready to do it because I never done it before, and I was just like nervous and like shy about it. And I think she sensed it, and she basically like kicked me out and told me to go home. But the way she did it was almost like, I don't know if this is what she intended, but it came off like almost like condescending. Like she's like, "Oh, you have the same like clothing as me, and you're just like me." Almost like call me like a chick in a way. That's kind of the way I interpreted it. Maybe that's not the way she meant it. Maybe she just was, I don't know, because we had like the same kind of boots, and she was like, "Oh, you have the same like boots as me. Oh, you have the same like similar style as me." It was like it was weird. Like after, just imagine like you're trying to like hook up with somebody, but you don't do it as the guy, and then all of a sudden she has like all these comments about how similar your clothing is to hers. It's just, it felt condescending. So that was like the last time we hung out. I saw her afterwards with like other dudes, but that was the last time that we officially like hung out. And it wasn't like a direct breakup because we weren't really dating, but it felt like we were. Because remember, this is like my first time actively trying to date. I had never like been on dates, and this was like, I think she was like the third or fourth girl I'd actually gone on a date with, and it was like the longest lasting period of dating, because the other girls, you go on like a date once and they kind of flake on you, you never hear from them again, especially on a college campus, you never see them ever again. With her it lasted longer, and she was like super into like the first few dates and actively wanted to like meet up and hang out and all that stuff, so it felt more like personal, like I was actually getting attached and getting to know someone. And at the time too, my goal was not like, I think a lot of people think that people who get into pickup, their goal is to sleep with like endless women. That is typically not the goal. I think deep down, if you ask a lot of guys, their goal is to find like a girlfriend or a long term partner. and this is the mechanism to get them from point A to point B, that was my goal at the time, to find a girlfriend. So it felt like a breakup in that sense. And I remember I was like, I was hurt, but I was also like pissed at the exact same time. Like maybe you've experienced that feeling where like you feel sad and you feel like a little bit depressed, but you also feel like mad. Part of it's like you're mad because you think the girl's gonna be like some other guy, and there's a guy that's better than you, so it's like an ego thing. But it's also like you feel bad about yourself, and you feel mad because you feel incompetent, like you couldn't do something, or you think about different scenarios and you're like, oh, I should have done that thing, or I could have done that thing. Why did I not do this thing? Even though it doesn't matter because it's in the past. But I felt pissed. But at the time, what I did is I took that negative energy, being pissed, and I remember I'd work out the gym like every day because I was thinking to myself, I'm not strong enough, I'm not big enough, I'm not like cool enough. And I remember like the next few months, I got in insane shape. Like I got in so much better shape. And then like I was trying to improve my style too. So like the pickup stuff and like me trying to just improve myself ramped up harder because it was almost like an insecurity was there. And I tried to I'm gonna say overcompensate and like fill up that insecurity or mask that insecurity. But I think people say things like that in a negative way, like a condescending way. I think it's actually a healthy thing. Like if you have an insecurity, you want to do your best to cover up that insecurity by just getting better. If you feel like you're weak, for example, if you're not in shape, or if you're fat or skinny, masking that insecurity by working out more so you're not that thing, to me it's healthy. Like that's the best way to get rid of insecurity, is to just not be that thing anymore. If you think you're weak and you make yourself really strong objectively, then you're no longer going to have an insecurity about being weak, because or at least you shouldn't have one about being weak, because objectively you're no longer weak. So the insecurity goes away, or at least it should go away. But that's what I did. And so this is like the long answer to this question. Take that negative energy, take that heartache, that breakup, and channel it into something super positive. It could be the gym. It could be getting your style better. It could be learning how to communicate more effectively. It could be whatever it is that you're not adequate in, or you feel bad about yourself in. Whatever deficiencies you have, channel that heartache and channel that breakup into improving yourself in those areas. Now, I think a big thing you're going to need to do is you're going to have to be like self-aware, or at least try to be self-aware about what you're lacking in. And I know that's difficult to do. I know sometimes in our heads we have a false version of reality. I'm sure that's true of myself too. But I think you're going to have to try your best to sit there and list out all the things that you're not great in. And then if you get into a breakup, or if you have heartbreak or something like that, like when I say heartbreak, I'm assuming that it's a girl or maybe a guy that you were interested in that did not reciprocate that feeling. So you missed out on somebody. That's when I think of heartbreak. That's sort of what comes to mind. And to me, a breakup is you were actively with that person for X period of time and it just didn't work out, which feels shitty too. Either way, I would sit there, I would think to myself, what did I do wrong? And the key word is, what did I do wrong? It doesn't have to be correct, but I would think that to myself. And I did this a lot of times because I had a lot of situations where there was a girl I was into and she just did not reciprocate. Maybe there were girls I thought I was kind of with, but then you find out that she's been with like other guys too. I've had a lot of situations like that. So this is what I would recommend. Sit there and think to yourself, how could I improve? Not her or him. In some situations, it's to each their own. How can I improve? If you were in the relationship and you thought she was into, say, super jacked guys, and you weren't that super jacked guy, that's a way you can improve. You can get super jacked. If she had a history of dating athletes and you don't feel like you're very athletic, but she still dated you, and maybe she broke up, and maybe you think the reason why she broke up was because you weren't athletic, that's a skill. You can fix that. You can become more athletic. If you maybe hooked up with her and maybe she broke up right afterwards, maybe you think that the reason she broke up with you was because the sex wasn't good, you can improve on that. That's a skill. You can improve on that. My point is that take the negative energy and push that into something that you feel inadequate in or deficient in. I think that's the best way to deal with a heartbreak or a breakup. And in a weird way, and this is this is at least true for me. I can't say this is true for anyone else. I've never heard anyone else say this. You almost don't. I'm not saying you don't care about breakups and heartaches. I'm not saying they don't hurt. But I am saying that to a weird degree, you don't fear them as much because you know that on the other side of that negative emotion is going to be a lot of improvement. Does that make sense? Like, I've had situations where I've been with girls that I thought was really cool and it just didn't work out. And the moment we kind of like broke things off for like an hour or two, it hurt horribly. And then I immediately channeled all that hurt into something positive, like a new vision of myself or a new version of myself that I wanted to become. And then once I started to kind of like attack that next version of myself, you feel a lot better in a weird way. And then you think to yourself, the next breakup, if the last breakup got me to this point, and this breakup will probably get me to this point, then this next breakup is really gonna like make me a beast or the fucking man. Does that make sense? So in a weird way, you don't want the breakup or you don't want the heartache, but you know that on the other side of it is something positive. It's hard for me to like articulate that feeling, but I think it's a positive feeling to have. And as a side tangent, I think it's a feeling that most people don't have because I think most people are too afraid to be vulnerable in relationships, which is why I think a lot of modern day dating is kind of so shitty. Because I think a lot of people are too afraid to kind of feel vulnerable or feel that hurt. And I think they're afraid to feel that hurt because they don't know what to do with it when they feel it. So hopefully this is like the solution to that. When you feel that hurt, channel it into something positive. And even though it might still hurt, it'll hurt, but something good is almost guaranteed to come as a result of that pain, which makes the pain almost like pleasure in a weird way. In a sense, it's almost like I'm trying to think of a good example. Imagine every time you got a really filthy, painful pump at the gym, you were guaranteed to build, say, a pound of muscle. Like, just stick with me in this hypothetical scenario. If you went to the gym and some guy said to you, you need to lift 200 pounds, but every time you go up in like 10 pounds, you only have to do it once, but every time you do it, you will visibly see your muscle get bigger and it'll last. It won't just be a pump. It'll be like a long-lasting muscle increase. I can almost guarantee you're going to feel like nervous. You're going to feel scared, but you're going to do it. And even though it's going to hurt, like you say you can't bench 200 right now, you can bench 180. You've never tried 200, but you get that challenge. You're going to sit there. You're going to try to bench 200. You know that once you get that 200, it's going to feel so good to get that extra, like, say, slab, like half pound or pound of muscle on your chest. It's going to feel so good. And that vision of yourself in the future is going to make the pain worth it, especially because it's going to come quickly in this hypothetical situation. So, without me rambling too much more, hopefully that makes sense. Let me know if it did. And if you liked this type of video, and if you want to hear more answers to questions like this, there's going to be a playlist here, right there, maybe, or I'm trying to get focused with the camera, or here. Click on that playlist. It'll take you to more answers to questions like this. And if those don't pop up or if they don't work, click the link below for the full playlist. You'll be able to see more of my answers to questions like this. Hopefully they can help you. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. Keep killing it.